just
Disconnect from
realized
the
we
intro.
might not have had sound, so I apologize.
What happened? We got some sound effects though, right?
It's okay. We're good.
Mm.
Anyway, um,
Right.
yeah. So I think one button seemed to be reset and turned off. So there it is. Hold on a second. Yep, that's exactly what happened.
What did it just? Are you recording? What happened?
It just did. No, you know what? There was one button just reset, but one thing doesn't matter. Hold on. Yeah. So I think that. There we go. Can you still hear me? Good.
Yeah.
Hello. Okay. Good. Yeah, so we were gonna get a loop because for some reason, sorry everybody, you're all jumping in now potentially, and going here. Now we have sound. If you didn't hear us, please let us know. We'll fix it. Well, we can't fix the live, but so we were talking about the vaccine, and what we were saying about the vaccine. We're gonna have to kind of go backtrack a little bit, I believe. But is you know you there's a trust issue, right? There's a trust issue.
Yeah.
And so with that trust issue, we actually kind of talked about this offline, and one of the problems on the trust issue would be like for the African American community, right? Is the Tuskegee, like they did, and I didn't realize what they injected. I thought it was something else, but it was syphilis. It was syphilis,
Syphilis.
and they did this to the Tuskegee Airmen. Essentially, is that not the Airmen? I'm sorry, not the
They did it
Airmen.
in Tuskegee, Alabama.
In
Where
Alabama,
basically
sorry.
they told people that they were doing they were getting free health care, but what they were really doing is injecting them with syphilis to see what happens if it's untreated.
Wow. Wow.
So this was you know, the U.S. government,
Yeah.
and I think for a decent numbers of black people, they don't believe that the government has advanced to a place where it truly treats black people fairly yet, or the medical industry. So there is skepticism.
Sure. Sure. There's skepticism for the medical community in general for a lot of things. I mean, on the cannabis side, if you're in the cannabis business and if you at least were one of the pioneers in the cannabis industry where you like understood the history of it, you know that like there's been a misinformation campaign that's been like insidious and continuous for years, where you had the medical industry, the mainstream medical industry saying, yeah, no, it's a gateway drug and it's all these powerful things, and every lab test they did was to disprove that cannabis was pretty much harmless, right? And the side effects are mostly really pleasant, and so they have not like earned our trust much since the polio vaccine. I kind of feel like it's like, wow, that's where um but is it it could be partially because they're doing a good job where we don't notice them. There's that too.
Okay.
On the vaccine guys and like those guys, we on that level of science, like I don't think a lot of us pay attention to that on a regular basis, like where they've advanced.
Oh yeah. Well, speak for myself. On average, there are so many. Well, just there are so many things that are happening in the world in general that people
Yeah.
really, because they're having such busy lives, even though everyone's life is many people's lives, not everyone is on hold right now. But to pay attention to all these things. So I'm not actively studying medical advances. you know?
Exactly. Now we're like, well, let's pay attention to that stuff.
Right.
Now people are paying attention to how our electoral college works and operates, right? And that's my segue.
Don't get me started.
We're gonna,
beautiful segue.
So we officially had the weird thing happen on Monday that happens in our country, which is that like we have these representative electors that vote for what the state's popular vote is if they're honest, but they don't have to. I think that's
Right.
amazing,
Right?
right? And if it's just
It needs to go.
it just needs to go, because if it's ceremonial, then because it's not ceremonial really. Because if it was ceremonial, it'd be like, yeah, whatever, it's done. We already know this is going to
Right.
happen. But it's
Right.
really like, no, one of these guys could be like, ha ha, gotcha,
Yeah.
and do that. And that's crazy to me that that's a thing. Um,
Should not be how our country
it
is
doesn't make sense. I mean,
is led.
if we just did the popular vote, people, we would have there would have been no drama, there would have been no
There
lawsuits.
wouldn't be, and what gets me the most about the people who stand up in favor of the electoral college, well,
Mhm.
it won't be fair to like the small states. They'll only go to the big states. If
That was a
to
really good voice.
win, you have to get the most
Yeah,
votes, then you will go everywhere. Like
I just don't
if
understand.
that's really what it is,
It,
then no, they're not just going to go to the larger states only. Are there
dude,
large numbers of people there? Absolutely. But are there also other people to get to the person having the most votes?
there were millions of Republicans in California,
Yes,
millions,
yes,
and
there are.
their vote is ignored every presidential election. And since except for I think Ronald Reagan, right? I think that was it. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, I mean, it's the same thing for everybody. Everybody needs to be represented equally. It's just stupid.
Yes,
But the game's
it's
fixed,
outdated.
and the game is fixed, and they know it's fixed, and that's why they're doing it that way. I mean, and everybody knows it. Um,
And it's pathetic to watch them carry on this charade right now of, well, we still don't know, and there could be a chance. Every case that they have tried to bring has been shot down. I
correct.
know that Trump's goal was to take it to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court has said no, thank you.
Yeah, yeah.
To which I will say I'm very surprised that
You know,
uh, with Kavanaugh actually, Gorsuch seems to be a somewhat of a like a you know originalist,
yeah,
which is actually going to follow
yeah,
the letter of the law.
yeah.
Um, but it's a joke to watch them all like this needs to be done already.
Well, yeah,
They were giving him this free reign to like it's crazy.
it is. But it is where it is right now. The I like all the laws that are being passed by states, but it's really funny how they're being done. Where they say, "Look, we're going to vote always with the." It's like the workaround of the electoral college. It's like we're always going to vote with the popular vote, whether it's our
Right.
state is in alignment with that or not. And I mean that does sound good until the other side wins on the popular. But the thing about it is like most likely
That's
you're not.
true.
Well, most likely we're not going to see Republicans win the popular vote unless you have a really good candidate or something crazy happening that leans towards that. Because it's just I just we're not that country
Republican
anymore.
Party is going to run, I believe,
Hmm.
if they were smart, I don't think they're necessarily smart, but they're going to
Well, yes, they
attempt
are.
to run
Uh-huh.
a Trump slash Reagan candidate.
That would be hilarious. It's not. I just he's not coming back. He's just scamming
No, no, no,
people
no,
for
no, no,
money.
no, 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 no. I'm not saying Trump's coming back. I'm saying
Oh, like a Trump
so
like.
they're going to do this again. Like for all the people who are like, thank God he's out. It's over. I'll never have to think about that again. What he has done, what the Republican Party has allowed him to do, the way they have played with rules and law, they will run another person exactly like him.
I
But that
don't know.
person will be in the Ronald Reagan mode of uh, style and engagement. Ronald Reagan was a horrible person
Well, he's a great politician.
from a political standpoint.
Well, well,
Like
from
he's
yeah,
who they hold up, and they're like, Reagan's the new Trump. Like, I mean, Trump's the new Reagan. No, he's not. Um, they're going to figure out a way to run, and it wouldn't surprise me if there was a woman if they attempted to run a female candidate next time, so they can be the party that actually has the female candidate. That would be their dream. But it would be an evil, 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 evil woman who comes across as a sweet, old, nice lady.
oh, gotcha. Kind of
That's what the Reagan thing was.
like our new Supreme Court justice, kind of like that.
Well, I don't necessarily know that I think it is uh, evil in the way that Trump is.
Oh, I don't say
No.
evil. I wouldn't say evil, but like, you know, not my choice, obviously. I don't know. I think so. We're at our halfway point, by the way. Oh no, no, we're not quite, but I thought we were. Sorry. But well, before we get into that though, like, we had a conversation that we really wanted to have on this, and I'm shifting
Okay.
gears just because I
Sure, sure. Go with it.
honestly
Let the moment happen.
let the moment happen. And I want to talk about Eric Clapton. Um,
Ah.
I want to talk about
Layla.
oh, see, and so here's how this conversation came about, folks. Like, you know, if you didn't listen to like at the tail end of our last live session a couple weeks ago, it was so I'm learning how to play guitar. One of my COVID things was learning how to play, relearning how to play guitar again, right? And I'm using this app right now called
My
Musician.
God, you just brought flashbacks to me sitting in a college,
In a dorm
house
room.
watching you play.
Dude,
Wow.
that's funny. And so, you know, but it's something I haven't played in a long time. So really, it's like I'm starting over again. So I did this app. I'm doing this app called Musician,
Okay.
and on there, sometimes new songs come on that you can play. It's really cool because it's, you know, it sits by and the tab plays in the tempo. You put it on and you can learn all these songs, right?
Okay.
And Layla came on Unplugged, right? Love that
Okay.
version, right?
Mhm.
From the MTV Unplugged for him. And so I was like psyched about it. My brother's doing it again too. He you know, and we talk once in a while, and you know, kind of I'll nudge him or he'll nudge me if we haven't been practicing or whatever. But I said, hey man, Eric Clapton's on there. And you can do Layla, and it's they got some cool levels where you can play easy riffs. And he's like, oh, well, I'm boycotting Eric Clapton. There's no way I'm gonna learn that song right now. And that is when I was informed. Again, this was a few weeks
Yeah.
ago. Of I didn't know that Eric Clapton is involved in. He created a song, or he sang on a song that Van Morrison wrote. I think that's what it was.
Mhm.
So he's
Mhm.
singing a song that Van Morrison wrote for, and it's to raise money for. There's a fund, and I'm not going to have the name off. You can easily find this, folks, if you really wanted to give to it. And what it is the fund for musicians who are in dire need. And so they're billing it like we're saving live music. We have to save live music. What's interesting is you can apply for the
Mhm.
money. I looked into this. You can apply for the money, and it's like $500, and you have to show why you're destitute. Like you have to pay the rent. It's like basically like here's some rent for you, rent money or whatever it bills. $500. That's what you get.
Okay.
And so
Okay.
they're trying to raise money to do this, which I'm not saying is a bad thing. You're trying to help. I'm never gonna discredit anybody for trying to help. But they're framing it in this whole like fight the man, and they're ruining live music, like somebody's in the back room like COVID, let's destroy live music. It's not like that, all right? I mean, it's just like, yeah, you're a fucking casualty, sorry, that sucks. And so like there's something that needs to be done to help live music venues. There's
Yes.
absolutely right. Broadway, there, I mean, you know, all,
My
you know,
God.
everything.
Off Broadway, all of it. Yeah.
And so I think the interesting is there's that argument on that part, but that's not what really piqued my interest on this whole conversation.
Mhm.
All right.
Mhm.
What really piqued my interest is it brought up somebody going, Eric Clapton is just a dumb fuck, basically. And then they brought up old text of Eric Clapton saying some super racist shit live. Like while he was
Mhm.
wasted, he was drunk and he was young and yada. All those things are true on the video. Like it's true.
How old was he?
He was it was in like the 70s. I want to say it was 79.
I need to know how old Eric Clapton is now. I'm assuming he's in his
He's
70s.
where's my did I put it on my
Maybe his late 70s.
1976. He said it. Oh, and it was Morrison's Save Live Music campaign. So
Okay.
1976, Eric Clapton on a show, and this was during this whole like anti-Muslim during, like it happened only then. I'm sorry. It was near the
Right.
time
Right.
beginning of a lot of Muslims moving in, and where there was this huge sentiment like, no, don't live in here. And English people are, you know, known for being pretty like we like. There's racism in America, but at the same point, through the fault of America, we also have a lot of people of diversity that we stole and made slaves, and then, you know, but then you have immigrants and you have all this. So like America
Mhm.
became a country where it's like, well, you may not like it, but you also have to understand you're going to have a lot of diversity in this country. And England was like,
Okay.
no, you know, did you know they had Indians and that was a bad enough thing for those clashes, right? But now you're looking at the Muslims. So there's anti-Muslim sentiment, and Clapton said some terrible shit in the show, like terrible shit. And so, uh, like later on, he's apologized, but he's also kind of laughed at. He's like, "Yeah, I was so stupid back then." He's like, "Yeah," and
Right.
he said there was this and there is a little bit of like, "Yeah, I was a dumb kid and I didn't know what the hell I was doing. And if you look at that person now, I'd like smack him silly." He didn't say that part, but like,
But see, he wasn't a kid.
yeah, no,
So
he
he was,
was a
I just looked it
man.
up.
He was
He
a
was
man.
31 years old.
Yes, correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was somewhere.
He
Yeah,
was
he was
19,
31.
he could say he was a kid.
He was 31 years old. So yeah,
Yeah.
you have that. And so the question I have for you is because he made the argument like I've honored black musicians all my life and I revere them and I like help talk about them and educate people on them. And he's got some arguments that he uses towards saying I'm not a racist anymore. That's old shit. So my question for you is, what does it take to no longer be a racist?
I mean, there's so many variables to the the scenarios of people that you could be talking about, and have they really changed? Like I know a lot of people didn't like what was his name, Robert Byrd. He was a senator, senator or congressperson. He was a senator, but he used to be a KKK leader
Mm-hmm.
years ago,
Mm-hmm.
but then denounced the KKK and moved forward and you know, the best of my understanding, attempted to change his life and change,
Mm-hmm.
fix things that he had done.
Right.
To me, that makes someone, I don't know if it makes them a former, but they're at least trying to reform some of the problems.
Right.
I, I think one of the problems is there's ways in which it's so deeply ingrained. So like if his argument is, and I don't have anything against Eric Clapton personally. I know people who can't, literally can't stand him and just think he's a horrible musician and everything. They're just not fans of his own. The notion that you can, what did he say? Oh, that he reveres black musicians.
I don't know
Well,
if that was
that
the
doesn't
exact quote, by the way, but
mean
he
that
was
you
saying
can't
that. What's that?
possess racist thoughts.
Why is that a racist thought?
So that doesn't mean you can't possess racist thoughts. No,
That
I'm
doesn't
saying
mean you
that
can't
doesn't
possess
mean you
racist thoughts.
can't
Correct.
possess
Correct.
racist
I agree with
thoughts.
that. I agree with that.
You know?
Yeah. No, and there's the thing is like just because you're okay with American black culture and you might revere, that's what's interesting about it, right? He might idealize um black musicians, because I remember like Robert Johnson and all all these blues greats were people that he used to always talk about and how we studied them and all that. And maybe he likes black Americans, but he just hates Muslims. You know what I mean? It's like he can be racist. That's exactly right. I mean, there are black people who can be racist as well. I mean, but to me, racism is actually more usually when you're the people in power. You know what I mean? Like that's
Yeah.
so like
Technically, black people, like if you're talking about the United States or even globally, can't be racist. They can be bigoted or prejudiced, um, but not racist by definition.
by definition. What in what way do you mean? Like if you're the country in power and you are a black populated country, are you not? Can you not be racist under the symbol of racism towards somebody else of color or of a different color?
The thing is, in the majority of quote unquote people of color cultures
Mm-hmm.
are like the white people are a minority or they're visiting on their like gap year before college. You know what I'm saying? They're not
Yeah,
like
right.
still built into the culture.
It's
That
not built into the culture. I mean, yeah, and I get it. So well, I guess because you said by the definition of racism, what I always look at racism as you're racist if you're like the people in power and you're bigoted towards the people in the country, like But is it
it's
more
that you have power. It's a system of power. So
right?
that you and your that dominant group that you're a part of have the ability to affect negatively
Mm-hmm.
the lives of other people. Right? Black people don't have that in this country. Just like when I hear men say, that's reverse sexism. There isn't. you can make some arguments that yes, there are men who may be treated unfairly in the workplace by women. 100%, I can believe that that's a real thing.
Sure.
Overall, men have more of the power in the
No, and so it comes to
country.
like the predomination, right? It's like how many. I mean, it's like it goes by. I don't know.
It's
Majority.
examining the group that you belong. Are you a part of the dominant group, right?
Right.
So I can be prejudiced, right?
Right. Yeah.
I can be
Absolutely agreed. I
racist,
understand.
but I can't be racist. I don't have that. What power do I have to be racist to enact something that intentionally holds down white people and families for generations?
So that's your definition of racism, like in that sense. Like that's. I think.
No, that's the definition. It's, I mean, not verbatim per se, but it's about a system of power. Basically, sexism is power. Men have the power to keep women out of boardrooms and climbing the corporate ladder, so forth
Right.
and so on.
Right.
It's a system,
Within
you know?
that culture, within that scenario.
Right.
But I mean, you. It's but that scenario can change. Is what I'm saying. It's not like it's incapable of existing for it's I think it's capable of existing for everybody if they're in the right scenario or situation. You know what I mean? Like every culture or
Sometimes, but what? So, what would be the scenario, right? Of a of how do I say it? That I mean, I'm using the sort of gender line.
there's Rwanda is a perfect
Binary male
example.
female.
Rwanda is a perfect example, right? Because you
Okay.
have so in Rwanda you had the was it the Hutsis and I'm gonna say
Yeah.
this wrong. Please
The
don't help me out.
is it the I'm going to say it backwards. I'm
I'm
going to say
gonna
the
say it back.
Tutu and the Hutsi, but I
I
think
was
it's
gonna say the
the
Tutu and Hutsis, but I didn't know if that was right.
I know
But
I'm
you
looking at
understand what I'm
both.
saying. So there was like Hotel Rwanda has this a perfect like a scenario about this where they were systematically killing other people that just because their skin color was different, but they were all I mean they weren't white.
Mm,
They were doing it to, you know what I mean. They were just doing it was slightly lighter skin to a slightly darker skin, right? I mean and
it wasn't per se a. It was more of an ethnic clash.
okay, all right, I get what you're saying.
I believe more of like a religious ethnic
Gotcha.
clash
Okay.
versus color
Right.
clash.
All right.
I'm actually gonna look at
Yeah,
my
we're gonna have to
notes
double
because I
check
want to
this
make
one.
sure
Yeah,
I'm saying that correctly.
talking out my butt right now on that, but it's all right. All right. We are now at the halfway mark,
So but can
but
we just
please let's
finish
do
with
this
the
because this is
fact
a
that
really good conversation. By the way, I want to,
because I want to tie it into my in my hometown, a board of education member, Francis Kajelja, who is no longer on the board, who adamantly refused to ever step down, and that she didn't have to respect anyone who
Mhm.
didn't, agree with her, because emails of hers were not even leaked. The public has the right to request email exchanges between elected officials,
Right.
and she was both bothered by gay curriculum, right? It isn't even gay curriculum, it's LGBT, it's history. It's basically teaching that there were
Right. Right.
famous, successful people that were, LGBT that deserve to be
Sure.
acknowledged.
Sure.
She didn't want that. She thought it was disgusting. That kids should
Disgusting.
even have to,
Disgusting.
yes.
I see. That's the thing that
I'm
drives
sorry, I think she said repugnant, actually. I think she said
repugnant.
repugnant.
That
But she was also and against like a racial equity group also. Long story short, she's gone. I'm happy she's gone. She doesn't need to
right.
be in anybody's board of education anywhere ever again. But I feel like a piece of, and not that I'm tying her directly to Eric, but I feel like a piece of, because when she would try to apologize and say, well, they misunderstood me or they didn't hear me correctly. I'm not that person. You, if you make bigoted statements, I feel you don't just get to walk away and say, oh, I'm not that person anymore. Okay, fine, you're not that person anymore. Talk to me about the person you were then, because I would like to know about the journey you have gone on, the knowledge journey you have taken to not be that person anymore.
Right.
You can't just say I'm not that person anymore.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
drives me crazy.
I think that's fair. I think that's very fair. It's like you have to. Okay, so you were at point A. Now you're at point B. As you say, how'd you get here? Like,
Yeah.
did you just flip a switch? Because there is that, like, I flip a switch and now I'm not racist anymore. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
I'm not racist
I just
anymore.
figured it out.
What?
Or maybe it was like I finally met a black person. You know what I mean? Like, it could have literally. I mean, dude, there's a lot of
Sure. That could be
seriously.
possible.
There are a lot of states out there where some people will never like. They'll if they saw a black person, they'd be like, "What?" I mean, you just rural enough.
But they can't unless they are so off the grid and don't even own any
Correct.
sort of
Correct. I know.
technology device. They cannot have seen a
I know. I know. No, or a gay person. You know. I mean, and it's like,
Yeah, well,
it's
yeah,
the
yeah,
it's just it comes down to the more people are communicating and exposing each other. I mean, like, and you know what I mean. I don't mean exposing,
yeah.
but
I know what
like,
you mean.
just like getting to know each other. Everybody gets over this shit, really. And here's my segue. You know what we need to get over? We need to get over cotton. That's what we need to get over, Rob. We're gonna
Oh, nice segue.
I know, right? Well, we don't need it. So here's the thing. Yeah, I love it. Cotton's great. It's not the fabric. It's the fabric of our lives. But really,
Fabric of our lives.
hemp should be. So this is going to be my soapbox on hemp right now. Um,
All right.
all
I'm
right,
here for it.
all right. So first of all, little history on the hemp side of things. Why cotton took over for hemp. Hemp has been used. It's the strongest natural fiber known to man, and the reason for that is that the nature of the way it's made in those husks, and the fibers they can be long and they're very strong, and they have this great tensile strength, which allows for a lot of things. The first thing usage it allowed was for rope, right? Hemp rope is incredibly strong. It's superior. It's been used. Hemp basically is what got the Americas discovered. Canvas comes from the same derivative word as cannabis, and canvas is what was used for the
Mm,
sails. So literally,
yeah.
hemp brought Columbus to the East
For the
Indian
settlers
East.
of
No, to the
colonization.
Indies, and then you of
Okay.
course have the Mayflower and all of that, and all those stories, the history of the mythos of
Yeah.
American colonialism was basically driven by hemp.
Mm,
It's a strong tensile cloth. It just lasts long. It doesn't mold easily because it's naturally an antimicrobial fabric. The problem with hemp when you don't have an industrial age is that it's incredibly hard to break down. And so, but it was backbreaking work, but it was what was used. Supposedly, the first jeans, Levi jeans, were made from hemp. They've admitted to that. They used to say no, but they're now like, yeah, it is. Um, and it was just this great
okay.
fabric. It was over the covered wagons coming across the pioneer days. That was hemp. That was hemp on those covered wagons. It wasn't cotton. It wasn't anything. It was hemp. All right.
The Little House on the Prairie. That was him.
Yeah, absolutely, it was hemp. All right. Now, then you have in the late 1800s, you have the cotton gin is invented. 18, I forget the late 1800s, but late 19th century. The cotton gin is
I feel
invented.
like it was 1890. I don't
I
know
think it
why.
was. I think right around there. But so the cotton gin is invented. Now you have this easy way to process a fabric faster and cheaper than you could with the hemp, and it wasn't as hard.
Mm,
And so cotton took over for fabrics. And hemp could make a little bit of a comeback, and when the decorticator was invented for the hemp, and it was breaking it down. It was a better way to break it down than just the way the hand way, hand done way. But
mhm.
cotton had already had a really good foothold in what was going on with fabrics. The problem is when we look at cotton now, and it's not, I'm not trying to. This isn't about dissing cotton. This is more about saying why hemp is a better option. And honestly, for everybody out there, my favorite shirts and clothes, and this is one, are usually organic hot cotton and hemp blends. It's usually like a 55-45% blend, one way or the other sometimes, and sometimes obviously it's different. But like that tends to be my favorite blend. I like pure hemp shirts too. But what's great
They
about
breathe better or something.
so they do breathe better. So let's just talk about like as a consumer. All right, let's start there for why, and then we'll work our way back to the farm this time. So as a consumer for hemp, um, one of the best things about hemp is it's warmer and cooler than cotton. All right, it breathes
Okay.
better than cotton does. And so now when I put on a cotton shirt, I actually feel like I'm putting on polyester. It's like the feeling when you have a cotton
Mm.
shirt on and then you take that off and then you put polyester on your skin and you're like, wow, I can't breathe. That's a little
Yeah.
bit of how I feel about cotton compared to shirts with hemp in it. They just breathe better. My temperature is much more evenly comfortable throughout the time I'm wearing them usually. And there's like you could do that with wool too. There's technology with wool that you can do that, and wool's a cool fabric like that as well, right? But hemp has those great qualities like for temperature maintenance. So it's great for undergarments for layering when you're going out in the snow or whatever, but also in the summer it works really well because you can, especially depending on how you process it, it'll breathe really well. But the next level for hemp is that it also helps block UV rays and
Mm.
it's antimicrobial. So, like,
Mm.
you will not stink nearly as much if you're sweaty in hemp clothes as you would in
People
cotton.
wearing hemp.
As cotton, if you're,
Someone should make that a tagline.
seriously, don't stink as much, but something. But hemp is great. Like I did this back in the day for a review for the Hemp Connoisseur, where we had it was hemp underwear, and it was one of those funny things where I was like, how do you review hemp underwear? And I was like, well, I'm going camping, and let's really test out hemp underwear, because what I can do with a t-shirt is you
Push
can.
it to the limit.
So what you can do with a hemp t-shirt, and I've done this in the past, you don't actually have to wash it all the time. That's another great benefit of one, is if you're lightly wearing it that day, you don't have to put it back. You don't have to put it in the wash. You can do it like 4 or 5 times this way at least. You can just hang it up, let it air dry, and it will not smell. It's amazing. All right, so it's really impressive. That's one of the things I love about hemp clothing. Um,
Okay.
and so that's one recommendation for them. And just that. Now, also, they help to maintain their shape more. They tend to maintain their shape for a longer period of time. Just like cotton,
Okay.
hemp gets softer the more you wash it and wear it and do that. It gets softer and softer. It's not a scratchy fabric. Obviously, everybody might think it is, but technology. This is a hemp shirt right here. You're not going to look at a hemp shirt anymore and just immediately go, "That's hemp." What the hell? It looks like any. You can make them look like any other clothes. So it's not like you're walking around with burlap sacks, which is like what people thought in like the 70s, 80s, 90s when they're talking about hemp. Everyone pictured that kind of stuff, I think. So the technology and clothing is there
Right.
and so that's one of the things I love about wearing hemp clothes in that sense. And that's on the wearing side. So to me, it's already superior as an experience of a consumer. It is a little bit more expensive right now to buy hemp because we're not buying enough of it, and we need more and more demand. So more and more farmers grow more hemp for that as opposed to for CBD. And so that needs to get there. But there's other parts about cotton versus hemp, and these are more like environmental costs. So a lot of people don't realize this, Rob, but 25% of the world's pesticides go to cotton. That's it. Of all the crops we grow,
Go to cotton.
25% of
really?
all of the pesticides used on the planet is for cotton. Because
Wow, that's a bigger number than I thought.
yeah, it's really it sucks. It's somewhere, you might hear fluctuations, but 22, 23. So I'm sure somebody out there is like, it's actually 27%. It's like, all right, whatever. Or I mean, it's a lot, people. Okay,
Right.
I'm not going to quibble over a couple of percentages. It's a lot. And so there's that. So cotton is a again, organic cotton you have to pay more for, and that's what if you're going to buy anything that's blended with cotton, it should be organic if you can. But also, the water needs of cotton is pretty much insane compared to hemp. So, for the production of the same amount of clothes that you can get from hemp and cotton, you're looking at 4 times the amount of water needed for cotton. So it needs a hell of a lot of water, and it needs a lot of poison and pesticides that we're putting in our atmosphere and our air. And then you also get cotton needs twice the amount of land to produce the same amount of fiber that you can use for clothing. So 1 acre of hemp is equal to 2 acres of cotton as far as production of clothing.
Okay.
But on top of that, now you got to look at, okay, now I have 2 acres of cotton. They're using 4 times the amount of water minimum, per acre. So now you're at 8 times the amount of water just to get to that level, and you're also using like a ridiculous amount of pesticides. And so those alone are really huge. The other thing about hemp that's pretty amazing is by planting it, you can have it like be planted for like many years at a time before you have to worry about degradation of soil because it's kind of tilling the soil. It's already a weed resistant plant, whereas cotton, does it destroys the soil, especially with all the pesticides. And so these are some reasons why like you really like it's really important. You know, hemp returns like 60+% of the nutrients back into the soil through if as long as you're doing your crop the proper way. Um, and then there's and then there's the durability. You're not going to hear about cotton rope ever used. There's a reason why it is just not durable. It can't do that kind of stuff. So those are my little tidbits on hemp versus
So
cotton.
why is the market not more? What's preventing more
Yeah.
from existing in the larger mass market?
Well, and it's coming. I mean, it's coming, but that's a slow-moving engine kind of coming, right? CBD was a faster-to-market option for hemp, and so it kind of cannibalized all of the environmental options a little bit, and that's it's disturbing in one way for someone like I've been an advocate of hemp for what it can do for our planet and how it can improve a lot of aspects of how we operate when it comes to farming practices as well, but right now it's faster money to get into CBD for a lot of people. I mean, it's going to change. That market's going to change pretty quickly, probably in the next couple of years, where it's oversaturated. But the machine that you need, like what I mean is like the mechanisms in manufacturing that you would need for clothing on a mass scale is it's coming, but it's expensive. Like and so that's what, like when it comes to if I want to be a hemp farmer, like whether I have farming experience or not, if I want to be a hemp farmer, I'm going to look at CBD much faster because I'm like, well, I can grow the CBD and then I can pick the flower and then I can give it to a processor and they'll process into some oils or whatever, and I'm going to get paid for that. Or I can go all the way and be vertically integrated where I make my own product. But if you want to do the clothing and the farming thing, it's not that you can't do that, but the pathway from being the farmer to being to the end product is much larger. It's longer, it's more expensive because you have to get into like not the manufacturing and on the level of like you got to break it down, you got to like take those fibers apart, you got to put them back together into what you're doing, and what's your process. Are you doing a chemical processing? You're doing a much more natural processing? And then just clothing in general, the end product, you have multiple cuts and all of these other plays that go along, so it's much more complicated to get there. And again, the infrastructure you're looking at is in the it's all in the millions, but it's like way more. And so it's just a longer runway, and unfortunately that runway's gotten ignored a little bit, and now there's like a little bit of grass growing on it because there's not enough attention to it. But it'll get there, and it's also there's a competition for that fiber and that stock. I mean, it can be used for other things. And so it comes down to like it's going to come down to how are we growing this stock? Are we growing the stock specifically to make it into a fabric? Are we growing the stock specifically for construction materials, or what are we doing with this? I mean, what are we going to do with this fiber? And so it's just an interesting. It's just more complicated, man. It really is. The more I talk about, the more I'm like, yeah. But it will get there. We'll get there. And clothing, it's not that we don't already know how to do it. I mean, we can look to China. China has been one of the best producers of hemp clothing in the world.
Oh, really?
Well, because they've had it legal for longer. They didn't care. They didn't like follow the American like side. They don't do marijuana. They do hemp. So they grow hemp they've been growing it. And so I wouldn't go to China for a food product. You know what I mean? Like Canada's the kind of been the dominating country on turning hemp into food, into protein powders and
Canada.
Canada, yes, because Canada's been legal for hemp since 1998, 6, I think 6. And so a lot of people don't know that hemp's legally been growing hemp.
Wow.
I mean, Canada's been legally growing hemp for a while, but they were growing it basically very strictly because of the type of cultivars they could get. They were growing it for seed, where they'd press it into the oil, and you can make the the cake that you use for proteins, protein powders, or then you'd have the hulled seed. So you'll see a lot of like the predominant companies out there on the food side for a long time have been Canadian. Yeah, and then it's just natural for what
Hmm.
they've been doing. I mean,
Okay.
they
Okay.
can't get a lot of
You
flour.
have educated me.
Yeah. No. So anyway, that's my little fun part on the hemp versus cotton, and of course, it always, happy to answer any questions. If anybody wants to put in a comment and ask for a question, please feel free. Always welcome to hear from everybody. Um,
Yes. Yes.
yes, and so,
Have
but
any questions? So, who are the the oligarchs of the hemp world,
you
right?
know, um, you could say there's a couple on the food side. You say Manitoba Harvest, you know, Nativa, and Hemp Oil Canada, which is kind of like they're the higher up of where they're creating the oil, and then it gets distributed out. So they're kind of a big one on the supply side. On the food one, on the clothing side, it's the big one that I would go with is the one I look at the middle people that are like taking the fabric and like and getting like the supplies of the bolts of fabric, and then they're also producing their own clothing line is Enviro Textiles, and they're actually right here in Glenwood Springs in Colorado. They're amazing. It's a mother daughter team,
Okay.
and Barbara Filipponi and Summer Star Husky. What just happened? We just lost our stuff here. I think we're still on.
Good.
Yeah, we'll see. You know how it does that? It kind of goes away, and then yeah. See,
Oh, right, right, right.
let's see. Yeah, see, he's
Okay.
already
Well, it's
back.
cool to know. I figured there had to be some.
There. It's changing though. It's changing.
I'm sure.
It is.
I'm sure.
But yeah, we can. There was what was the other conversation we wanted to talk about? There was
Well, what I wanted to segue
feels.
to for like the last 10, 15 minutes, which is interesting because you talked about things being legal or not legal, and
Mhm.
um, was the defunding the police, defund the police.
Defund the police.
Yeah.
I actually did you see the Daily Show last night or Monday with Obama?
No, I did not.
He had Obama. I just listened to the podcast today. I was doing some stuff, and he had asked him this question about defund the police. So it's interesting to I'll reiterate what I heard. But what did you want to make a point about on the defund the police side?
Is that I am, and we've had this conversation. I am very much, over the knocking down of the phrase as the problem.
Oh,
The phrase
hmm.
defund the police is not the problem. The killing of unarmed black people by the police, that is the problem.
No. That is
Uh,
the problem. I'm not like there's no denying that, but I am of the mind that the phrase is not effective, and I feel like
defund everything else.
it's counterproductive. It's just counterproductive. It's
But
not the
but
right.
but it's counterproductive because it makes the people who need to fix the problem feel uncomfortable. And the problem is that we're worried about how they feel. We need to fix the issue, and the issue is that we need to. Many neighborhoods would be greatly improved if instead of all these massive amounts of money going to the police
Hmm.
could be put into educational programs, into
Yeah,
therapists, into counselors, into rehab. Like,
I am on the side of what's behind defund the police. I'm just I it's the problem is that like it's a know your audience kind of conversation, right? If your audience is people who will easily bristle up to a phrase like defund the police, then maybe that's not the right phrase. We
but
get the
who is the
nuance.
audience though?
The whole
Because
all there's still 75 million people who voted for a crazy dude on the other side.
They did. I don't
Okay?
care about them.
But you have to. You have to
No, you
right
don't.
now. Yeah, you do though. You do if you
Why?
want to implement change. That's all. It's you do if you want to implement change. Um because it yeah, it just you do because look, you're not going to get Mitch McConnell or anybody in the Senate to come on board with defund the police. It's just not going to happen.
Why? But that's a part of the problem to me.
Well, you can complain about the problem, but it's not
I
going
was
to.
running back.
What's
Old.
that?
It doesn't have to be old. It could be anybody, bigoted, whatever. Why do I need to change what I'm fighting for?
No,
If I truly believe
but
I'm correct,
but you're not
because it'll make
changing.
them uncomfortable. When
You're
I
not,
believe that they're the problem to begin with.
but you're not changing what you're fighting for. You're just giving yourself a better pathway. It's like I mean, it's if you were two countries, you would rather just go to war and browbeat them into submission. And I'm saying you got to be a little more diplomatic. You got to convince them that it makes sense. And when you say something like
I don't
defund the,
believe in that.
you don't. Okay, I'm just saying when I hear defund the police, I hear immediately like we're taking money away from the police and that's it. That's the solution, which is and so you're not telling them what they're getting out of it. What a lot of people will hear is when you say defund the
So they
police,
should ask.
they're not going to ask. These are not the like you know, you got to have a sales pitch for the non-critical thinkers. That's what I think. You got to have the pitch for the non-critical thinkers. You
That sales pitch will still involve the words defund the police.
but it doesn't have to. It
We
has
defund everything else in this country. We defund arts education in schools all the time. We defund education departments all the time. That's literally what we do. Why is the police department the only entity that, God forbid, you ever say something negative about?
but
You
no
can't say anything wrong about them.
But
What?
nobody out there, Rob, is making a campaign calling it defund the schools. Nobody's creating campaigns that are based on a phrase that says defund the schools. They'll say
Okay, so
reform.
if we use the word, if we use what they say, okay, we're going to cut the police fund. Same thing. That's what they do. They don't fund. They don't say defund arts programs. They say we're going to cut arts programs. Great.
That's true.
Okay?
You're right.
If
Look,
fund makes
look.
you uncomfortable, I'm still going to say defund. But if they want a word that's parallel, so then they want us to say cut funds to the police, they're still going to be pissed about that.
But see, I don't. You see, the thing I think like. I just think the defund the police statement is turning off even Democrats. Some Democrats are turned off by that statement. And it's
But
not.
then people need to invest in why they're turned off. There's no defund the police.
But see,
What is
I
if
feel
we
like
said defund hospitals or defund and then explain what no one they're trying to make defund mean abolish, and that is not what it means. And
No,
they
but
know that.
But here's the thing. Here's the thing. What really defunding the police to me means is allowing the police to do their jobs properly. All right? So you're taking the police away from doing the stupid jobs that they do. All right? The police don't need to be doing they don't need to be doing tickets. You know, that could be a whole other traffic thing. That's your job is just to give speeding tickets out. They don't. I mean, that's already getting automated anyway in a lot of cities in some ways, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the big thing for the police is they should absolutely not be dealing with mental health issues. They're not trained for it. There needs to be
They should not.
no. So that's the conversation that is part of defund the police, by the way, because you take some of the money away from like SWAT teams and shit like that. And police tanks and put it towards psychiatrists and another responder. You know, if you're injured physically, the police might respond, but they're just there to help with traffic, right? They don't get in the way.
Right.
That's what an ambulance's job is. If the fire department has a fire, they're the ones who respond. If you have a mental health 911 issue, there needs to be a different response vehicle and team that comes to do that. And the police focus on real crime. That's the conversation that should be had
Yeah.
before anybody says defund the police. Because you say defund the police to some of these people and they immediately shut down and they're not going to listen to the
But
nuance in the
who
conversation.
cares if they shut down? Is the point. If the people who it most affects are saying this is what it needs to be called, then that is what it needs to be called. There were plenty of people who thought we shouldn't. You're fighting for women's rights. Well, if you say it that way, it's going to make some men uncomfortable. Who the fuck cares about the men who got uncomfortable? You understand what I'm saying? Why?
Yeah.
Why? So women should have changed what the slogan was, what they were fighting for, so that men would feel more comfortable when the male gaze, if you will, was the actual problem.
I get what you're saying. By the way, Carolyn Davis said, I think as people, we have always changed our expressions to appease everyone. We are still trying to appease hundreds of years later, and we still are fighting for the same things. The truth is, no matter
Yeah.
what terms we use, they are going to find a problem with it. Educate them on the word defund. And I actually think it sounds like a lot of what you're saying too, Rob. And I like the sentiment you're saying, Carolyn. And by the way, I think I fixed the sound issue. Let me know if you can hear us fine now. Also, I agree with everything you're saying, and I also get, because I'm not coming from a culture where we had to constantly appease everyone. So I get I mean, what I'm getting out of that is we're just fed up with appeasing people. Like, this is the situation, right? And I get it, man. I really do. I really do. I just and maybe there's a really good point within that, but at the same point, I also just think that it's still not a good community. It's just bad marketing, man. I really think it's bad marketing. I do. It's just not going to get the point across.
I think it has been hijacked at no different than, and we can sort of wind it up with this and come back to this on another episode. But I somewhat parallel it to how Trump in the 2016 campaign turned the word delete into an evil word.
What?
Use the power of the media to take a word and make it mean something evil, right? So the whole 2016 campaign was that she deleted her email.
Oh, that, yeah.
Everybody deletes their emails.
Everybody deletes their emails.
Everyone deletes emails. Delete is not a negative word, but they spun it into a negative word.
Well,
defund is not a negative word. It is being spun into a negative.
Well, it is negative in the fact that you're subtracting something, actually, so it's literally negative. Just saying. But I get what you're saying. But my point really comes down to, really, there needs to not be like a movement that comes only from the passion of the moment. There has to be like, bring that passion into a fucking group and say, okay, here's the deal. We have to have some kind of, like, this is what happens with any idea, right? Is do a focus group before you just push this shit out there. Seriously, it just, to me, makes sense. And it's like, because here's the thing. I get part of what you're saying is like, we've already come up with defund the police. That's our state. That's not what we're saying. Defund the police. Deal with it. Learn about defund the police. Learn about what we're saying behind it, and stop rejecting it just for the statement it is, because that's our statement, and fucking deal with it, because we're not going to appease you. And I actually appreciate that. But what I'm saying is, maybe it's a hindsight thing, right? Is really, I really kind of wish there was a focus group that was set up and saying, okay, who are we trying to impact with this? What is the groups that we're trying to impact with our movement?
But that was all done.
You think that was done?
It didn't center itself around white people.
Oh, I don't think it needs to center itself around. It doesn't need to center itself around white people. I think it needs to center itself around centrist philosophies. Like, I think you need to go, we're progressive, but how can we bring you into this? How can we get you to understand this? Because if you sit down with anybody that you can reasonably talk to about nationalized healthcare, they're going to go, yeah, we really should have that. Like, it's really, but you just have to be able to, hey, okay, how can I get you to sit down and then have the conversation? And it doesn't sound to me like it's worked. I mean, that's the point, right? Is like, the point is to get.
I think because people have spun it into something other than what it is. We need to defund the military, right? We
Correct.
don't need. There's
Completely.
zero reason for the sheer massive amounts of money while education
Yeah.
gets
Yeah.
shortchanged.
Yeah.
But I don't see people balking at the notion of these. I mean, yes, there are especially diehard military families. I have military service members in my family, but I wouldn't say we're a military family overall. But
Right.
diehard military families, they may take issue with it. But the average person that I have had ever conversations with are totally in agreement with taking money away from the military. No one has a problem with it.
No, nobody does.
But the military has some of it. But you mention the police, and it becomes a group that you cannot touch, which is
Well,
offensive to me.
again,
No
again,
group that's
I
above.
again, I think when somebody hears defund the police who's not going to listen to the nuance, they hear when I call the police, they're not going to be there because you took money away from them. That's what the people who are
Right. And
afraid.
all I hope is that those people will go and ask someone, what does it mean? And if they don't want to know, they don't want to know. There's going to be no convincing them.
That's why it's terrible marketing, man. You there has to it has to be like a campaign that people just get right away and defund the police. What most of the people get, not most, the people we're talking about, sorry, get right away, is you're taking the police away from me. And that's not what we're doing. Like, defund the police means the police actually have more time to do the jobs you want them to do. That's what it means. And so there has to be a better way. Relieve the police, maybe. I don't know. I mean, like
No, but that makes them sound. Again, it's about making sure that the police are okay with how it's framed. I don't believe in any of that.
if you
This
get
is a
what you want, why does it
structural
matter?
problem with the police in this country.
But if you get what you want,
Trying to be nice about it is not going to fix it.
but I know, but I'm just saying, if you're giving them what they want, which, because one of the things they do, they don't want to deal with mental health people. They don't want to do that job. Most
No, and
police,
they shouldn't have to.
and they shouldn't have to. So that's the thing. Is like the conversation is more about relieving them of all this bullshit. So, and then also they have more time for training and being able to understand how to bring crisis, prevention. And so I think
Okay,
that's
I have a homework assignment for you then.
Okay.
For the next
All right.
episode, I'm dying to know what's your slogan. Don't come up with it now. I'm just
all
very
right,
curious.
all right. Right now, relieve the police
You were
is
to
part of
change
it,
it.
which is see, but you got to be sneaky, man. That's what I'm saying. It's like, don't make the slogan for what you want. I mean, make it for what you want. Don't make it for you though. You got to make it for the people that you need to convince, so that you can get what you want. And that's it. That's just marketing, right? I mean, it's just marketing. It is. It's all marketing,
We'll
man.
have to continue this conversation.
All right, we're gonna have to do these because it's I know we're over time. We're over time. Although we had like technical difficulties and everything in the beginning, so hopefully enough people will hang with us. We'll have to put a little note up about that, but yeah. So it was a good conversation, though, man. It was
This
good.
some stuff.
It was, and I'm gonna play the music now because we're gonna do the rollout,
the
man.
music
Because
was good.
I didn't, we didn't have the sound right in the beginning because I'm a bonehead. So thank you for everybody joining. This is my radio voice, everybody. Rob's good conversation today, man. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you.
We will be here next week, right? There's no holiday. Wait.
No, I don't know if we'll be here next week. It's
We
right when
might.
election
You know
season
what? Let's take
Christmas.
we'll take the holiday off. You want to do a in
Back in
between?
January.
You want to do you want to be back in January? You want to take the next few weeks off? Is
Well, the week after that is January, right?
Yes, it is. All right. We'll talk about it. We'll see. We'll post out if we're gonna be coming back in a week. But if not, everybody out there, have a Merry Christmas. And by the way, Rob's
Happy
birthday is on
holidays.
Christmas, so he's a birthday boy.
Oh,
I know that's messed up. I
Thank you.
did that, didn't I? I know. So happy birthday to Rob early, and Merry Christmas, and Happy New Year, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Holidays. That's just blanket it all right there. All right. Till next time, guys. Peace.